The next day, mayhem spreads globally. Newspapers splash headlines declaring him the birth of a god and parody boards' earlier comments. Others indicate that the Golden Leopard dungeon was cleared in less than 40 minutes. Governments express worry, and North Korea brands him a global menace. Every site writes on his refusal to give interviews and his threat toward the media. Later, Lee and Minsu sit in his living room. Lee wonders about the Eye of the God. Minsu confirms its existence, saying Lee possessed it in his prior life. It allowed him to observe opponents' stats and inventory, making it a unique and unparalleled skill. As it leveled up, it evolved through a process termed a second awakening, altering not only in power, but in form. Minsu speculates that at higher levels, the skill may detect even minor movements in an enemy's pupils or heartbeat, allowing Lee perfect precision in fighting. Lee asks where it might be located, and Minsu advises checking the player website, which keeps dungeon records. Though not flawless, it could narrow the search. Lee realizes time is short. Many players have regressed and will scramble to claim the talent. Large guilds and low-level players alike will hunt for it. Minsu tells him that he was one of the strongest players in his prior life, and that people talk about him regularly. Rumors of Project Li Huayun spread swiftly, and major guilds have begun researching records of those who entered the final dungeon. Lee asks if these documents were prepared because they foresee regression, but Minsu clarifies that they were made for murder. Guilds tracked every powerful player, noting where they earned their equipment and skills. That knowledge helped them to plot thefts and assassinations. The General Guild once tried to take Lee's stealth abilities, using whips and nets, after realizing he wore armor. Even after failing, they monitored him closely, looking for another chance. Lee realizes these documents are treasure maps going right to his prior power. Minsu acknowledges that his own guild once collected similar data too. Skills and things were everything in this world, and murdering became a natural aspect of living. By tracking dungeon gates, guilds might anticipate exactly when someone achieved a new skill. Lee considers that the General Guild, led by the Poison King Choi Chol-sung, is the most powerful in Korea and one of his old adversaries. They already know his former skills, and may now be hunting something bigger, the Eye of the God. Minsu says they may be exploiting their memories of the past to manufacture formidable weapons early. Lee agrees but adds that they likely avoided the Golden Leopard dungeon for two reasons. First, they aim to let him recover his old talents and items, then kill him to take them all at once. Second, fear. His strength has already intimidated them enough that none dare to meet him again. Lee examines the game website and discovers that the level 21 Black Orc dungeon has been cleared by the ID Poison Choi. He notes that Choi is working hard. Earlier, players from the United States and China were on the leaderboard, but from level 20 onward, just his and Choi Chol-sung's names remain. He is now level 25 with 732 bonus points, which he gives to concentration. Raising it to 733, he reflects that no one can yet become emperor since that title demands a stat exceeding 1,000. When his power surpassed that mark, he acquired the title King of Power and obtained the talent Petrify, originally owned by Emperor Yongsun Hui in his past life. Since only a level 21 dungeon has been cleared so far, no one could possibly reach that power yet. His companion agrees with his decision, stressing that concentration is key. Lee explains that it boosts combat awareness, evasion, and precision, helping him employ his strength to its utmost. It also helps when skills are unusable. When questioned if he needs more mana, he says that he never runs out, since he regulates it efficiently. Lee decides to enhance his stealth talent next. His companion argues physical force could be faster, but Lee adds that stealth delivers knowledge through espionage and penetration, making it more beneficial. He plans to improve it to level 2 before visiting the General Guild headquarters. As they step outdoors, his friend comments on his basic clothes and advises he should dress to match his growing influence. Though reluctant, Lee agrees and accompanies him to a store famed for dungeon player clothes. The shopkeeper, recognizing Lee, offers the garments as a gift in his honor. Amused by the gesture, Lee agrees and leaves after changing into his new outfit. He then asks how to raise stealth. His friend argues that proficiency comes from knowing and frequently utilizing the skill. Certain acts increase proficiency points, which trigger system messages. Lee assumes that other regressed players already know these ways and decides to begin experimenting. They enter a goblin and orc dungeon. Goblins pose no threat, so Lee focuses on orcs. He activates stealth as one roars nearby, testing alternative tactics. When he tries combining armor with stealth, it fails, so he switches back and strikes the orc's neck, obtaining proficiency. Realizing the strategy works, he continues hunting until stealth reaches level 2. Now anything touching his skin can become transparent depending on his mana. Satisfied, Lee asks about the overall guild headquarters. His acquaintance informs him it is in Cheongdam, Gangnam District. Lee smiles, saying that it must be an affluent place. Lee stands outside the general guild headquarters with his stealth skill engaged. 2 guild players walk ahead of him, grumbling about the trouble produced by Lee Huayun. One mutters that they merely pretend to help while collecting money, while the other warns him to be quiet. As they swipe their cards, the guard greets them, and Lee slips in behind. One player pauses, detecting something unusual but dismisses it. Lee considers it a tight call and listens, as an announcement calls all CEOs to a 9:30 meeting. He decides to follow. Inside the conference room, he maintains stealth active. A man opens the meeting, stating the date as January 14th. An A-rank player reports that the guild master is missing, clearing a level 23 dungeon. Another is worried about his condition. A B-rank player announces that their master will soon claim the Eye of God, and Lee remembers the words carefully. They discuss monitoring Lee Huayun, claiming that his name dominates every meeting and that they cannot find him. Vice Master Choi Han-sung adds that if they cannot locate him, arresting him is hopeless. Lee smiles inwardly, knowing he is right there. Han-sung adds that losing the stealth talent, the dagger, and now the Eye of God, would destroy them. The man leading the meeting promises Lee will appear for the Eye of God. An executive objects, stating Lee's power has expanded beyond belief. He waves a newspaper reporting Lee's strength of 1,033, calling it impossible. Han-sung rejects it as a ruse aimed to instill anxiety and asks for the strategy. The man presents records outlining Lee's prior acts, revealing that he claimed the Eye of God in the level 34 Black Ogre dungeon, killing 4 guild members. He asks those who died to raise their hands, and Han Woo-sung, Lee Yoo-jin, Park Gwang-ho, and Go Sang-yoon answer. Lee calmly studies them, recalling their fates. Yoo-jin tells that the dungeon always houses a rare skill and that their master sent them there years ago. They had discounted Lee as a weak player, and that mistake led to their deaths. Fear evident in their voices as they remember. Park admits he still shakes at the memory. Yoo-jin says that the unique skill Eye of God always appears in that dungeon, and that their knowledge now includes details obtained after regression. Lee reads at the records, noting the dungeon's location and the monster's weaknesses. Han-sung asks for their plan. Yoo-jin adds that their lord would go himself this time, and since only they and Lee know the dungeon well, they will take the chance to kill him and retrieve the Eye of God. He proposes using SA2 on the Black Ogres. Another player argues, informing him that the substance is forbidden. Yoo-jin insists there is no other way to stop Lee. Park says that they will support their lord and return with the eye. Listening from the shadows, Lee softly wonders if they are ready to die the same manner again. Human inventiveness knows no limitations. Even when monsters menace the earth, mankind analyze their remnants to build instruments for survival. Monster materials are unlike anything found on earth. Others are harder than iron yet light. Others burn better than coal, while some are carved into complicated shapes. These discoveries advance human technology, though not necessarily for good. One such creation is the medication SA2. Lee messages his friend to ask about the substance. His pal is horrified and tells that it is outlawed by the World Player Association. When Lee questions about its use, his pal reveals that it amplifies a monster's power. A test once rendered a goblin strong enough to defeat a level 20 golden leopard. The drug was originally designed as a weapon to unleash monsters in enemy territory. However, it caused pandemonium, resulting to soldiers and players succumbing to weaker beasts. In the guild meeting, Lee Yoo-jin informs that SA2 lasts 24 hours. When Lee Huayun comes at the Black Ogre gate, they plan to inject the medicine into the monsters, enhancing their power to level 100. After slaying him, they will seize his abilities, items, and more, and the Eye of God. Han-sung approves, but tells everyone to keep silent or the guild would collapse if the truth spreads. He stresses that the Eye of God is too vital and pushes everyone to grow stronger before facing the level 33 Black Ogres. Yoo-jin agrees and thanks them for their support. Suddenly, Lee receives a system warning that his stealth would deactivate soon owing to low mana. He laments not investing more points earlier and swiftly transfers all 243 bonus points to mana, raising it to 341. Yujin detects the rapid shift in questions, who just utilized a skill. Guangho denies it, but Yujin insists he sensed a significant flow of mana. Before mistrust spreads further, someone comes to announce the guild master's arrival. Choi Chol-sung steps in, and the room grows hostile. Lee feels the strength pouring from him. Chol-sung tells everyone there is no need for alarm. Han-sung mentions SA2, claiming that is their only opportunity to fight Wei-yun, whose strength appears unachievable. Chol-sung says that Wei-yun does not lie, however his strength is absolutely amazing. He then instructs everyone to move out. As Chol-sung passes, Lee considers confronting him, but decides to focus on the archives. He follows a man carrying documents, sliding through the entrance as the man examines his eye for admission. His high concentration keeps his actions silent. Inside, he shows himself, binds the man with blue monkey fur, and seizes the records from his prior life. He reads the papers under the flash of his lighter. The records are extensive, chronicling every combat and every player he once killed. Reading them creates a mild sense of sadness. He flips to the list of objects and skills, each related to the monsters they originated from, and finds the precision nearly admirable. Wei Yun's historical records suggest that after clearing the level 245 dungeon, his body transformed totally. His darker form grew unstable and destroyed everything in its path. The sight was beyond description. It became a legendary grade skill that players eventually titled Li Wei Yun's Shadow, earning him the moniker Shadow of Death. After the world reset, this exact power now belongs to Choi Chol-sung, master of the General Guild. Reading the data, Lee understands this is the final entry concerning his history and future. He suspects it is simply a copy and demands the original before destroying the archive. Shattering the supercomputer that contained all guild data, he wins a massive quantity of additional points, illustrating how much the guild's fall has upset the world's balance. The destruction of the archive itself influences the trajectory of the future. Knowing strength must come first, Lee spends all bonus points into his strength stat, bringing it to 2054. He texts his pal, indicating that they cannot foresee how much the SA2 medication will augment monsters. His guy adds that a strength of 2000 alone is impressive. When Lee asks what else he learned, his pal replies that the medication was originally created to maximize dungeon prizes. Humans assumed stronger monsters would make harder dungeons and greater drops, so they experimented by injecting monsters with the medication. However, the system never acknowledged the alteration, making the medicine unpredictable and deadly. Lee finds the medicine troubling and concerns about the General Guild's plan to use it on black ogres. His friend proposes trying it first. They inject a goblin with the medication, and it roars with startling power before charging. Lee moves fast, grabs it by the skull, and crushes it, noting its quickness, but realizing its power is still far below his own. Lee encounters a level 27 dungeon full with teeth zombies. Their terrible stink makes it hard to focus. They move as swiftly as blue monkeys, and their iron jaws can crush everything. Even crushing their skulls or organs fails to stop them, so Lee thinks decapitation is the only way. Using subtlety, he slices through them one by one. The fight offers no experience, but he gains 456 bonus points. Though beneficial, it still feels lacking. As the last zombie falls, the system informs that all monsters are destroyed and the gate will collapse in 3 minutes. Another message appears, explaining that the mastery of his butterfly skill has improved and that his actions are drastically changing the future. Lee stops, wondering what the system genuinely means by those statements. Lee steps out of the gate and calls for his companion. He asks if any questions remain, saying that he does not need them due of regression. Each participant gets 3 questions from the system at the outset, and his pal discloses that he has used one to ask why regression happened, leaving 2. Lee proposes asking about skill comp. His companion hesitates, fearing it could be a waste, but eventually agrees. When he asks about the proficiency points for butterfly effect, the system says that no such skill exists. Shocked, he tells Lee that the system could not find it. He wonders if Lee possesses an ability beyond the game itself, something like a flaw or an unauthorized program. Before they can discuss further, a fresh dungeon gate appears. A notice announces that a level 1 special dungeon with S-rank difficulty has been unlocked, and only 1 player can enter. Lee receives a notification saying he has gained over 4,000 points through butterfly effect, which triggered the dungeon's emergence. He tells his friend to ask the system about it, but his friend refuses, frustrated that the last query was wasted. He complains about the game's inventor, arguing the system denies what clearly exists. Lee nods toward the gate, telling him that the system's denial means little when the proof sits before them. A notice displays that the gate will close in 30 seconds. They both wonder if it can close on its own. Lee steps forward, urging his pal to query the system about the gate while he enters inside. The system reacts that special dungeons develop when a player or small group grows too powerful compared to others. These dungeons are built by the god of the game to restore balance. Clearing one grants a specific skill meant to counter an unstoppable player. His companion knows the gate appeared because of Lee, and that any player who clears it could obtain a talent strong enough to fight him. The machine argues it could not answer earlier since information concerning special dungeons was only added moments ago. Annoyed, his pal mutters that Lee is likely to grow even stronger. Inside the dungeon, Lee travels into a shadowy passage, thinking that a S-level dungeon should at least provide a unique talent. Suddenly, a goblin comes ahead, smiling ominously. To Lee's horror, the creature speaks, declaring itself the protector of the secret dungeon and disclosing its level 200. It mocks his amazement, promises him a quick and painful death, then produces a burning orb of fire and hurls it toward him. Lee activates his armor as the fire hits him. The system notifies that the armor's proficiency has increased. He understands it grows stronger after sustaining attacks beyond its defense. The talent increases to level 2, earning the ability to release a shockwave. The goblin appears astonished at Lee's prowess and charges with another wave of fire. Lee utilizes his petrify skill, freezing the beast midair before slamming it into the ground. The goblin moans in disbelief, but when Lee grabs its head to crush it, the goblin blocks the strike. Lee is startled that its skull remains intact. Grinning, the goblin summons 3 clones. One clone appreciates Lee's power, while another wonders how he survived so long. They hurl energy blasts, but Lee dodges rapidly. When one clone approaches from behind, Lee blocks it and strikes back. His armor releases a shockwave, sending the goblin flying. The force amazes him. The goblin stares at the fallen clone in surprise, remarking that no human should be this strong. Lee charges again and destroys another clone. The last 2 retreat, but he does not stop. He notes their knowledge of human words while following them. Pouring all his extra points into strength, he increases it to 3,486. Lee comes in with overpowering power. One clone sobs that their deaths cannot be part of the god's plan. Lee punches, obliterating him instantly. Fear fills the last goblin's eyes before Lee vanishes using stealth and pierces its neck with his dagger. He levels up, recognizing that is the outcome of slaying such a high-level enemy. A notification indicates that all monsters have been defeated, and the gate will close in 3 minutes. The level 200 guardian has fallen, and a special skill has been bestowed to him. Excitement surges within as he awaits the payoff. Lee obtains the special talent Eye of the Reversal, which allows him to read another player's memories. However, it cannot read the memories of players stronger than him, and can only be utilized once per 24 hours. The skill has the capacity to close the knowledge gap between past and present players, who once relied on experience and memory to stay ahead. Stepping out of the gate, Lee sees his pal, who instantly asks if he obtained another particular skill. Instead of explaining, Lee decides to show and utilizes the skill on him. A system message appears, asking which memory to inspect. Lee selects the time they were in the grocery. The recollection develops before him like a scene, complete with options to pause and rewind.